It's been a while since I've done a video, and I've been wanting to do one for quite a while, and today just seemed like something needed to be finally, at least for my part, finally said. It was, and today, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and he is really a very incredible loss because he courageously spoke up for conservative values, for religious values, for family values, and that I think are really important, in this time, in this world, or forever, honestly. And so it's just horrific what happened today. There just really aren't, any words. And but what I did want to say is that to all the people who think that this is going to scare people with conservative values, it is not. One, we will not be silenced. Uh, we're gonna find our voices, which is what I've been wanting to do and just hadn't, done it. But we're all gonna find our voices. The millions and millions of us in the United States who are for traditional family values and who believe in God, who love the United States of America and love being here, who share those values. Unlike many people today on the left who really have a disdain for America, I feel like I'm able to embrace the things that have happened that were let's negative, of the past, but the issues that we have moved forward. We have people have acknowledged, oh, okay, that wasn't such a great way to do things, and now we do better. And I think we're a country always, when we know better, we do better, right? And I think that's the point. But to keep rehashing the past over and over and over and over again only keeps it alive. And the issues, we want to leave the past behind and move forward and move forward. And I think the world is, I feel like there's a lot of people who are stuck in the history of the United States, in some of the bad things that happened. And yes, they were bad. And yes, maybe there is still some discrimination and there's, racism, but that, honestly, I consider that just being some people being jerks and still being, just some nasty people. Is it the norm? It's not the norm of people. Are there still going to be nasty people? Yes. Are there still going to be rude people? Yes. Should you be rude? Is it still good to be rude? No, it's not. But are there still going to be people who are maybe racist, who may be this or that? Yeah. Who are sexist? There probably will be some. Are they the majority of this country? I would say no. No, they're not. We have, as a country, moved beyond it considerably. Now, there's always going to be people who think they're better than the other people. And I would say the people progressive on the left think that they're better than everybody else, and they know better than everybody else. So you see, they just, instead of being, white supremacists, they just turned into progressive supremacists, So, there's still always people who think they know better, who are better than somebody else because they think that they're smarter and this and that and everything. And, we still got them. It's just, they just changed form. They just changed what they were talking about and those types of things. Still got them, But the out racism that we, have, I mean, is there still pockets? Will there still be? Maybe there might be some 500 years ago. Is it the norm? No. And I think that we need to move beyond that, because until you move beyond it, you just can't, you stay stuck in a repetitive cycle of negativity, And I really would like to say this to progressives on the left. I, as a Latina, do not need your help. I want you to stop DEI. I want you to stop thinking that you can defend me. I want you to stop thinking that I need your help. I don't need your help. We don't need your help. And my biggest wish is that you would just live your own life. Mind your own business, stop the activism, and live your own life. Live your life. Leave me alone. Don't use me as a woman and use me as a woman of color to say, oh, she needs our help and that we're going to champion your cause. And I don't need that from you. I can fight for myself. I can do that. I don't need your help. I don't want your help. You know, because a lot of us have wisdom. We also know some things. And we're not children, helpless children who need to be led by the hand by white liberal progressives. We don't need that. And so, the other thing is a lot of those people are atheists. And just because you're like, in essence, they've gotten so far away from God that they think that God doesn't exist, doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. And the issue is that if you think God doesn't exist, it's because that's how far you are away from him. And you have got a lot of work to do to get closer. Those are just the facts. People want to say no, but it's not like, I don't believe in God, I know God. And that's really a big difference. I don't believe, I know. And I don't like that there is this string of atheism and a lot of values, atheistic values that go along with that really just come from people that are really ignorant about God, about the spiritual world, about spiritual wisdom. They're just ignorant about it. But because they are so caught in their intellectual mind that they think they just know it all. And because they don't know about God, which I feel like they're kind of, inflated with their own ego to believe that if they, who are so smart and, a part of the elite, and if they don't, well, then God doesn't exist. Well, no. That's the issues that you're so far away from God that you don't know it exists. That's really what's going on here. That's really what's going on. And those of us who are really spiritual and know God, know you don't know. We see how far you are. And that's why, I'm making this video today, because we will not be silenced. We will not be silenced. And, there's a lot of people, like they say, truth tellers. That people still need to be speaking the truth. And 9 times out of 10, doesn't go so well for truth tellers. But, that's really kind of what I wanted to say, is that we will not be silenced. We are not going to go away in fear. And because, when you really know God and you know what the values and what it is and how to live, there's else when they're lost. No. What I do want to say is that I respect everybody's own journey and that they are on one, whether they realize it or not. That I also believe that everybody is empowered to live their own life and make their own decisions and guide themselves into spiritual growth, psychological growth, and that really only you can do it. Somebody else can't do it for you. And that's kind of what I'm saying, is that I have my own agency, I have my own brain, I can stand up for myself, and I don't need progressive for ourselves. And it is so ridiculous that that narrative keeps on going and keeps on going. And I just that's one of the things. It's like, you may keep telling yourself that lie, but the rest of us who are actually, very capable, intelligent people of color are like, y'all are full of crap. And no. No matter what has happened to you or yours in the past, it doesn't define who you are, nor should it define your future. It's always a better future is ahead for all of us. It always is, if you believe that. And I am just don't want to fall into this victim narrative that, the left is trying to push. I'm not going to fall for it. It is not something that I'm going to follow. Yes, has life been challenging? I say life has been challenging. There are challenges in life. But I am not a victim. I am not a victim. And I just also would like that to stop. We are not victims. People are not victims. There are no victims. They're just choices. And you may not realize the choices you made to get to where you're at, and how those choices and your own beliefs led to your own situation. You may not realize that, but it does. But they do, you know. And I see that what, I feel like, say, let's just say, like the Republican Party in this day and time, not always, but just in this day and time has done, is try to preserve religious freedom, or the freedom to not practice, and I don't want people to push their religious or non-religious beliefs on me, just like I'm not asking you to convert to my religion. And so that's kind of how I want things to go. I want you to do your thing, you do mine, but don't try to make me what you believe, force me to believe what you think. It just not going to happen. And I think it's like live and you respect other people, but I need respect in return. I need to be allowed to live my life how I choose, practice and believe in my religious values, in my family values, in, that's what I'm saying. I think a vote for this time for the Republican side was a vote for that preservation of religious freedom, of freedom of speech, of freedom to still be heterosexual, and that's okay, and that's okay too. And I think that I'm not trying to take away from other people. I'm trying to make sure that who I am is allowed to continue and be preserved. That's what I'm saying. Because that is not what I was feeling before under the Democrats, and then especially under this last administration, was not feeling that at all. It was like, no, you're going to say and do and be and believe exactly what we tell you to do, or we're going to take you out. And literally, this is what's happened. It literally is what's happened. Because either they're going to cancel you, they're going to shame you, and all these types of things. There was no freedom. The authoritarian was the Democrats. And really, they're leaning more progressive to say, no, 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 we're going to lean more farther left and force everyone to go further left. And so... and that's just a no. It's just a no. That's not, that's not going to happen. And so that's what I'm saying is that if the people want to be atheists, they can be atheists, but don't force me to be an atheist, or don't take away my right to practice the religion of my choice. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So you do you, but don't take away my ability to be me and to do me. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And I think if people respect each other, that we can live in a world that is orderly and structured, and that it has law and, like they say, law and order. And but yeah, do you need to have checks and balances in those things? Sure, sure. Did sometimes things went to an extreme? Yeah. And so, but it needs to be brought back, and people need to do that. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? You don't just say, "Oh well, there's no laws. We'll just have none." You know, we just won't have any. You know, so that's not really the answer either. But we all, I think one of the things, we all have to participate in this life, and we need to take accountability for ourselves, and be good citizens. And I think that we need to be active, you know, in our own lives, in our communities, and in our country. And so that's kind of what I want to say today. I have a lot of things on, you know, my, that I've been wanting to say. Like I said, things that I will probably have been wanting to say, is I'm going to in the future do a video on why I rejected my acceptance to Harvard back in 1989. And now, after so many years, like now I know, like things that I felt in my gut that I didn't really know, but I kind of sort of knew, but didn't know that I knew. And why I rejected it was because of those things that have come to fruition, you know, that I see now. Ooh, that's what was going on. You know, I didn't know, you know, but now I do, you know, and that was the right decision. So, you know, so I want to be able to talk about that. I want to talk a little bit about my own spiritual journey, the things that I have learned, things about toxic empathy, and also about how, you know, when you're you know, like this whole thing about being a good person, how the shadow for good people is that they've always been good, and they feel they can't be bad until then all of a sudden, you know, all their badness was what I call put like in a bag, that like you in Jungian psychology they call it like shadow, right? And like I call it like a shadow bag until it grows, and it grows like with yeast in it until it pops, and then that's when people become violent. So I'm not really, that's why I'm like, I'm surprised and not surprised that the left and their empathy turn out to be super violent people, because it's something that they've negated in themselves. It's something they choked off and are willing to not admit that they are, you know, resentful for always having to be good, resentful that they don't have power because they didn't exert it in a way and didn't do it in a way and do all those things that. But the issue is that you need to own the shadow, right? You know, and say no, that's not right, you know. And so I don't know, I don't know. I mean, I could get off on a lot of subjects. I could get a lot of subjects, but we'll talk about the shadow, you know, and what I call the shadow bag, things that we ignore about ourselves that eventually explode, you know, and it even could be good things, but, you know, normally it's bad things that we're ashamed of, things that we resent, that either we feel like we couldn't do, we shouldn't do, and a lot of shoulds and shouldn'ts, they get stuck in this bag that eventually, you know, explode. You know, a lot of you know maybe that I wrote that book, Freedom from the Unconscious, and I think that's what's happening, that a lot of things that people did that were unconscious are now coming up so that we can bring them into consciousness. Because until it's brought into consciousness, we can't move forward. We cannot move forward. And I think people haven't gotten over World War II for a lot of reasons, and the Great Depression and that whole thing. People still hanging on to that, but the world is not that. That's another video. You know, so I've got some videos there that I want to, you know, talk in more detail, that I don't feel like people have gotten over World War II. This thing with, you know, Nazi and Hitler and who knows and the other, and I mean, people, they're just obsessed, like they haven't gotten over it. But you know, the world isn't 1940. It's not 1940, you know. And we need to look at the world of where we're at today, and how do we move forward, you know, and how do we want to move forward, you know. So I think that's the, you know, that's where we're at today, and we need to quit looking back to decide how to go forward. The issue, we just decide to go forward. These are the values, that we're going to choose to move forward. And maybe some people, do this, do that, but rehashing the past gets us nowhere. Honestly, it gets, okay, we know it was all bad, it's all bad, let's move forward. Okay, let's move forward. Let's move forward to bigger and better things. I believe the United States has a capacity for great prosperity for everyone involved. I think that there was a reevaluation. I see this bringing back of manufacturing and readjusting of the tariffs and all these kinds of things. It's just that we made some decisions back in 1990 by outsourcing, almost all our manufacturing. And then we realized maybe that wasn't such a great idea. You know what? Now we sit here and evaluate, where are we? It's not some trauma. Like the world is collapsing. The world is not collapsing. We're just sitting back and evaluating where, what decisions did we make and how did that work out? And then we tweak it to say, maybe we'll do this a little different. After COVID, we realized maybe not such a great idea to have all our manufacturing done somewhere else. Maybe we're not going to bring it all back, but maybe we want to bring 30% back or 40% back of all the important fields so that we have some ability not only provide jobs for our people, but to be able to be kind of self-sufficient in case some kind of pandemic or other significant event that would cut us off from our normal supply chain, that we could still survive, without it. It's not the end of the world. It's just a reevaluation of where are we? How did it go? Should we do something different? Do we want to continue it and or not? And if we want to continue it, do we continue the exact same way we've been doing it, or do we make some changes? How is this working? Like Social Security, maybe we need to tweak it. We need to tweak Social Security. The way this saying that, oh my God, we're just going to have this unlimited check of medical care from the time of 65 till 105, not really what it was set up to do. So either we need to put more in and take more out of your check, which I don't really think is a great idea, but either we need to put more in to cover the longer lifespan, or we need to make people do away with the whole thing, move it to a private system where you can, put it into your own account and you own the money, which is what I prefer, but whatever. That's another video we can go more into. But, it needs to be tweaked. That the model that was created didn't work out so great. Is it really the best way to do it? So you know what? We're going to try something different. Maybe we do that for another 100 years or 80 years and we decide, whoop, I'm going to tweak it again, Because, like they said, when you know better, you do better. And maybe what we thought back in 1940 was the best way to do it isn't the best way to do it. Now we need to reevaluate with new information of where we're at. How do we do it? How do we do it better? How do we not, bankrupt ourselves doing it? What makes more sense? What do we do? Now, 80 years later, we have new information, technology at our hands. How do we leverage the technology to do this better? Something that in 1940, they didn't know. So there's a lot of things that need to be tweaking. People were coming out of depression. They were freaked out about that. There were mindsets that, that doesn't exist anymore. We've moved past that. Where are we? How do we move forward? And we're going to make some tweaks. Maybe, in the global, economy, what does that mean? We didn't have the computer back in 1940. As we do everywhere in software. We didn't have telephones that you could do banking and send instant messages and see YouTube videos and take classes on, and we didn't have that. Now we do. So maybe we really, and that's what we've done. People have done more online courses and getting degrees online. You don't have to be physically there. We've changed, and maybe we make more changes. The world is constantly changing, and we adapt and we move forward into better ways. So we can't beat up ourselves at what we did wrong when we didn't know any better. Now we know better. Now we're going to do better. That's it. There's no fixing the past. There's no really fixing it. There's no really fixing it. Even psychologically, even if there was, some psychological damage and trauma that was done, the individual has to do the work to get over it. has to do the work in a way that is not harmful to others. You have to do the work to do the healing of what happened, no matter the cause, on your own and in a way that is not harmful for others, to others. And so that's what I want to say. And, I mean, there's a lot. Want to say that today because, but I have a lot more videos, and I do want to talk a little bit more about my experiences, because like again, I said that probably the next one I'm going to do is on the Harvard. My experience when I went to Harvard in the summer of 1988, and then I'm going to talk about, what I was told, in that process, and then, getting accepted, and then, how I got recruited by two women, which maybe if they see the video, they can tell me who they were, and maybe, maybe they can tell me, a little bit about themselves and why they said what they said, and I'll tell you what they said and how I interpreted what they said. So maybe we learned something from that, but, but I do feel it was the right decision in the end. I mean, I didn't know that some opportunities wouldn't have come to me because I didn't go there. I didn't know like certain things, wouldn't have happened because, certain companies and certain industries only want, Ivy League grads. I didn't know that. Maybe that, something I didn't know. But sometimes something tells me that maybe that wouldn't have mattered because even when I was in the position, like in a particular one, those particular jobs were just outsourced out of the company that I was in. So I had the opportunity, but at the moment I was ready, had all the credentials and stuff to take that particular position, it was outsourced. Oh yes. So that's another thing I would want to talk about is what I learned from my jobs and that I've had, and I would like to discuss, I worked at Nortel Networks and I worked at USAA, and I would like to discuss what I learned from those two experiences. I consider one being too nice of a company, which is Nortel Networks. And I think, USAA was still a really good company to work with. And I would say nice, good to its employees. And, but sometimes you have to make some tough choices in order to ensure the continuance of the organization and the prosperity of the, individuals who, work there, So, so I want to talk about those approaches. So I really want to talk about some of those things, and I think it also kind of goes into like in business, in capitalism, sometimes why you can't be too nice, and so that sometimes like why being nice can lead to worse outcomes for the individuals you think you're trying to help. So there, some of those things. So maybe I should call it, I feel like I should call it maybe, call it the wisdom channel, but I do think that we're coming from a time into where we need freedom from our unconscious behavior and thought process. We need to bring these things up into the conscious awareness so that we can move beyond them, learn the lessons and move on. And, I'm just like, I'm just devastated about what happened today, and but again, I just want to make it clear that conservative voices will not be silenced, and we will not live in fear. That's really the message, and that's really the main takeaway. And I really hope for the best of America, the United States, and I am still going to believe in that. And I am not going to buy into the story of misery, poverty, and who knows what the other side's trying to sell. Not going to do that. I believe in love of country. I believe in love of God. I believe in love of my community and my family, and so I just think that I'm not willing to tear this country down over, some people who are a handful of jerks. Like I said, or or things that are not exactly my way, not exactly, but I'm not going, but I do want to have the right to practice my own religion, to believe how I believe, and to live my life and my family life, and to choose, like for instance, if I want, that I am heterosexual and that I'm free to do that, and that people don't try to convert me into not being heterosexual, right? That's kind of where my, thing is, and to be able to live my life as who I am, just as much as somebody else wants to do theirs. And I don't really feel like that was being honored or respected, by the left, I guess, So that's really it. And so I just feel like we need to stand up. I feel that's what I'm doing for myself, is standing up for my right to live the life that I choose to live, as a person who believes in God, who loves God, who knows God, who loves this country, and still thinks that in its imperfection is still the best place to live in the world. And I would choose no other. And again, I am not going to tear down this country just because there's some jerks here, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Even though we don't see eye to eye on everything and there's some jerks, I'm not going to sell out my country to someone else or something else, or tear it down because, it didn't exactly come about in the exact perfect way. I'm not going to do it. And because I embrace the fact that humans are not perfect, that we all, honestly, I think we all try to do the best we can at the time that with what we know. And you're talking about things that people are arguing today about things that people did, 400 or 500 years ago, or maybe even 100 years ago, and it's just like, or even, like I said, there's still going to be jerks, and people are going to use, some stuff to make you feel bad, because, sometimes people do, are nasty to each other, you know what I'm saying? But I am not going to burn this country down, and I'm not going to destroy it or hand it over to some other country or individuals because it wasn't follow a perfect roadmap to its creation. I'm not going to do it, because people are imperfect, and I do truly believe that people do the best they can, with what they know. That's what I say. So yeah, that's what I say. It's just really sad that violence has been because people can't express their ideas, and then people might say, oh well, like say for instance, some people were being like maybe like visas revoked or deported because for their speech, but nobody's trying to kill you over it. The fact that you go back to your country of origin, the place that you were born, that you honor and you have a love for your own country, because I see all those people waving their flags here. Everybody has a love for their country. This is who you are, the food that you eat, the place that you were born. And, people are just sending you back there. There's not an end to it. Nobody's trying to kill you. But today, unfortunately, someone decided that, they didn't like Charlie Kirk's opinions or values or what he stood for. And that's just really sad. I mean, it's just horrific. I mean, there's just no words. It's just very, very sad. It's just a sad day for America and this world. And, I just hope that we can find a future. I know we will. We'll find a future out of this. a better future out of this. We'll move forward from this. I'm just, not going to give up thinking that the United States is still the best place to live in the world, no matter what. Imperfect as it is. The perfect imperfection. So anyway, that's what I have to say tonight. And I said I will be making more videos about those topics and a lot more, just to be another voice, because I think that Charlie Kirk took a lot for a lot of people who didn't speak up. And so I want to speak up as another voice, that believes in God and who loves his country and loves being, who I am, and to make sure that whoever did this knows we will not be silenced. Thank you and good night.